Good morning, guys. Today in this tutorial what we're going to create is just a simple little enemy that'll run around, and if it runs into you it's going to send you flying. It's going to launch you across the map, and the idea is that if we have like a platforming game with a bunch of platforms a bit wider than this, like maybe there'll be like something out like that, and say you've got a couple of these in a row out like here and then another one and another one, we're going to put these enemies on top of here. And what they're going to do is when the player jumps on, they're going to run at the player, and if they hit the player it's going to send the player flying and try and knock them off the edge. So it's going to be a nice little basic enemy to avoid in your game, very simple as well. This is part of the platforming series, but you won't need to have watched any of the other videos to make this. If you want all the other stuff like the checkpoints and whatever else I built, I can't remember right now, then go through the rest of the series. But if you just want to create this little guy that launches you across the map, just follow this. So if you want to see what it looks like, skip to the end and have a look, but let's just get started. If you go to your content browser, do we have a platforming system? A platforming folder? I can't remember. We have a checkpoint folder. Let's crack that open and we'll do it in here since everything else is in here. So what we'll do is we'll right click, we'll go new blueprint class, and this is going to be of type character, I believe, and then we're going to call this simple chaser BP. Creative name, I know. So crack that open. Now let's just, for the sake of simplicity, just make this guy a sphere that just flies at you. So we'll go static mesh, add a static mesh. In the details panel, click static mesh and then type in sphere and click on material sphere. Let's maybe scale you to twice the size, and let's just see how big that is in the world. We don't want him to be too big. So if we drop him in, okay, so if we imagine we're the player running around, this guy's going to try and fly into us, and if it hits us, it's going to send us flying. Okay. So now we need to set up his collision. So if you hold Alt and then H, you can get a side view like this. And if you click on your capsule component, you can see the capsule in there. We want to scale this so that it encompasses approximately the sphere. So change the half height and then change the radius to make it spherical like that. Beautiful. Compile and save. And then if you press Alt and G, you can return back to this mode. Now what we're going to do is we might just give him a flashy material. I suppose it doesn't really matter. No, let's just leave that like that. Go to the event graph, delete everything that's in here right now. Click on your capsule component, right click in the event graph, say begin overlap, add on component begin overlap. Off of other actor, type in third person character. So if we overlap with the third person character, then we're going to do something, and what we're going to do is we're going to go add third person character and say launch character. And that'll send our character flying. Now, the launch velocity, which direction do we want to launch the player? I think the best one would be to get a vector from the center of our enemy character to the center of the player character, and then multiply that by however far we want to go. So to do that, grab the capsule component, drag that in, and say get world location. Then we're going to say get player. No, we don't want to say get player character. What we want is we want to just drag off this third person character and just say get actor location, just like that. Put that down like that, this one up like this, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say get unit direction vector, and that vector is going to be from the capsule component of us to the actor that we overlapped, and then we're going to hook that up. No, we're not. We're going to go multiply by float. This is a vector of length 1, so it'll only launch us with a velocity, a speed of 1. If we hook this up into there and then multiply this out, this float, we can call this launch velocity, like that. Move that down so we can see it a bit clearer. Compile that so then we can change the default, and we'll change that to maybe 500. We'll play around with that and tweak it in a second. But basically that should work. If this overlaps our player, that'll send the player flying. So let's have a look. We'll jump in the game. Now we've spawned over here at the checkpoint that we set up in the first video. Now if we hit it, nothing happens. What if we hit it up high? Okay, so if we hit it up like that, we seem to be getting launched, but I'm not sure if that's just from the pawn. Let's just have another look at this. Maybe it's not actually triggering the overlap. Let's just test. So we'll type in print string hello. I've got a backup plan if this doesn't work. So if we walk in, okay, it's not saying hello, so it's not actually registering the overlap. That's fine. So what we need to do is we need to go add a component and then type in collision, add a sphere collision, and we'll call this overlap. So the capsule component isn't overlapping with the player, obviously. I should have known that. Anyway, so we'll scale this up to about there, something like that. And then when this overlaps the player, make sure that this is larger than the capsule component, by the way. So we might just scale down the capsule just a little bit to maybe 100. 100 by 100. That looks like it's flush perfect with the cube. So now this one here, this can be like 105. This is the overlap. And if this overlaps the player, then we're going to trigger the launch. And this, the collision on this will be overlap all dynamic down here. So now we can delete this node and we can click on overlap and then do the same thing. We'll say begin overlap. And then we hook this up into here like this. And now let's test it. Compile and save. Alright. Okay, it said hello. We didn't move anywhere though. What if we go on top? Okay. Seems to be kind of working. What if we crank up the launch velocity to something enormous? Like 5,000. What we might have to do is add in an artificial Z factor to launch us upwards instead of down. Okay, that definitely worked. Check that out. So that's definitely launching us back, and if we hit it up higher, oh my goodness. Goodbye. Okay, so 5,000 is a bit too big. Let's try 500 again, or maybe let's go 1,000. But what we should do is instead of just launching us away from the cube, let's just angle this up just a little bit. So I believe if we type in rotate vector, I'm not exactly sure how this works because I don't use this a whole lot. But what if we type in rotate vector like that, and then we're going to need to pitch it a little bit. So maybe we can pitch it by, let's just say 45, and then add that into the launch velocity. I'm not entirely sure that that's going to work, but let's just see. Because I could be rotating it the wrong way. I haven't done this before. Let's see. Okay, it's saying hello, and it seems to be launching us back. And then if we hit it on top again, okay, it's not unreasonable. But it doesn't seem to be launching us upwards. Okay, it's launching us upward this way. Just like that. So the rotate vector is a little bit wrong. I'm not exactly sure how to get that right, so sorry about that. But something that we can do is if we take this unit direction vector, we can split the pin struct like that, and then we can say make vector over here. We can hook up the X and the Y to be the same. And then what we could do is we could add an artificial Z. So what we could do actually is we'll leave Z as 0. So we'll strip out the Z. Then off of this we'll say normalize. So now we know that this is going to become a length of 1 out here. And then what we can do is we can split this and we can make another vector. So hook up the X and Y. And these two combined, the hypotenuse of that will have a length of 1. So if we add in a 1 like that on the Z, then this will always launch us upwards at an angle of 45 degrees. Don't worry if that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to you. That's some maths. Some bloody confusing maths. But this should work, I believe. It would be easier to just rotate the vector because you could put in whatever angle you wanted, but I'm not exactly sure how to get that to work, and I don't want to stuff around on this tutorial for too long. So this will work, I believe. So let's just give that a go, and let's see if it launches us upwards. Fingers crossed. Okay, beautiful. That looks like it's worked. And if I hit it on the other side, yeah, it launches us back this way. And it looks like it sent us up at a 45 as well. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. Maybe 45 is a bit much. We could go 0.5, which I guess would be like whatever half of 45 is. 20 something and a half. if we change the launch velocity to maybe 500, because 1,000 was a little bit too big. Let's give that a look. This should look nice, I think, now. We might leave it at this. Yeah, beautiful. So it's launching you back, definitely. Oh well. Anyway, 750, and I'm not going to play with it anymore. So that's set up. It's definitely launching us. We could add a sound in here. So let's say spawn sound at location. Just as a bit of feedback to know that we've been launched. Let's just put an explosion in. We'll pitch shift it to 0.2 so that it sounds real gnarly. And then for the location, we'll just say get actor location of self. And that's where the sound's going to be. Okay, so that's the launching logic. So let's comment that, and we can say launch character. And then what we need to do is we just need to add in some movement logic so that this guy actually chases us. So you could put these around in your game already, just like this. Like if you had you wanted to make these platforms a little bit more challenging, like you could put this guy like this or something, and then this one down like that, and then say if we started, oh, we can't start there because we've got the checkpoint, but if we jump in here now, oh, where'd they go? Oh, they must have fallen, yeah, because they have gravity. That's fine. So say we had one like on the edge of this, for example, like that. Hopefully he won't fall. Is he still there? Yeah, he's still there. Okay. So like the challenge could be, okay, you're regular platforming, but then you need to get past this guy without overlapping him. Oh, and he's hit me and I got sent flying. Okay. Anyway, so let's make this guy move now. So let's put him up on here. We'll put one up on there. The first thing that we need is we need nav mesh. So go into your panel up here and type in nav mesh bounds volume. Drop that in. And just make this, I don't know, the size of the cubes, I guess. Something like that. Boom. And if you right click in your world and then press P, you can see where they're able to navigate right now. This one, he's blocking his own navigation because he's a static mesh. So what you can do is go to the static mesh here, and instead of block all dynamic, I think if we change that to pawn, we should be alright. Nope, not pawn. What if we change it to character mesh? One of these will work. Okay, there we go. So now he's not blocking his own navigation. So what we could get this guy to do is we might give him another overlapping volume. So we'll give him a collision, like another spherical collision, and this can be chase radius. And whenever the player enters this radius, this cube is going to start moving towards the player. So let's make that a bit bigger, something like that. And actually what we'll do is we'll go to the construction script and we'll create a variable for this size. So we can say set radius, set sphere radius for chase radius, because we'll have this different per instance. So we'll promote that to a variable, and this can be called chase trigger rad, like that. And we can click on that and make that public. We might also make the launch velocity public as well, because maybe you want some to be more aggressive than others. Something else that we could put in here actually is we could go character movement as well, and we can say set max walk speed. This is the speed that the dude's going to be able to move. So you could have this higher for like more difficult enemies. So we can promote that to a variable, and we can call this move speed, like that. It's good to make anything that you want to potentially change later. It's good to make it a variable, because then you can just create instances of this parent blueprint and then change it to make all different classes of the same enemy. So now chase radius, that's defaulted to nothing, so let's set that to 1,000, like that. That looks like a pretty good radius. And the movement speed, set that to maybe 400. The character movement speed for the third person character is 600, so this is a third of that, 2/3 of that rather. So it's not quite as fast as us, but still pretty quick. So now what we want to do is when the player overlaps this chase radius, so we'll say begin overlap, cast to third person character, because we only want to trigger it on the third person character. Then what we'll do is we'll say AI, and maybe what we'll do is we'll actually create some events. So we'll have a custom event down here, and this will be called chase player, like that. And we'll have another one, another custom event, called stop chase player. Just like that. Alright, compile and save. Now when we overlap with the third person character, let's say chase player, just like that. And chase player is going to look like AI move to. The pawn is going to be self, because we're moving ourselves. And the target actor is going to be get player character. We're going to be moving towards the player character. And what we want to do is we want this node to repeatedly fire so that it consistently moves to the player character. So we could have a delay like that. Yeah, 0.2 seconds is fine. And then what we'll have we'll have a branch over here that we might use in a second to break this. Actually, no, you know what we can do? We can have a thing called a gate at the start here. So we can have a gate like that. And then what we're going to do is off of delay, we're going to type in RER and then enter to get a reroute node. That's just a quick little shortcut. And then hook that back up into enter over here, like that. So basically what's going to happen here is when this event's triggered, the AI is going to move to our player character, and then 0.2 seconds later, it's going to move to our player character again. So it'll keep updating every 0.2 seconds. So let's give that a go. Let's just change this guy's radius so that he's a little bit smaller like that. Actually, no, let's test the guy down here first. So we'll put him over here like this. That's his radius. We might actually make his radius visible. So if we're going to chase radius and untick hidden in game, just so we can figure things out. Now let's grab our nav mesh over here and hold Alt and drag. And then we can drag that down here like this, so we have another one down here. Make that a bit bigger so that he can move around everywhere. Okay, now if we press play, here we are. And as soon as we walk into this guy's radius, nothing happens. And I think the reason for that is chase player gate. Maybe the gate isn't open to begin with. Yeah, start closed. Dumb. Okay. So untick start closed and then go in. Boom, there we go. He's definitely moving towards us. And if he hits us, bang, we get pushed. Oh man, he's bullying me. That's beautiful. I like that. It's scary. Okay. So now that that's all good, when we call, so let's set up some functionality for stop chasing. So click on your chase radius and then right click and say end overlap, like that. And then if we put the third person character down here again, so when we end overlap with the third person character, in other words, they leave our chase radius, we're just going to say stop chasing player, just like that. Okay, and when we stop chasing player, the way that we stop this loop from happening is we just, I believe, just hook it up to close. We just close the gate. But then when we want to chase the player again, we need to open the gate again. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have a sequence node which does a sequence of things. The first thing that it's going to do is it's going to open the gate when this is called, and the second thing that it's going to do is it's going to enter the gate like that. This looks like a big freaking mess of spaghetti, but trust me, this works. I believe it'll work anyway. Fingers crossed. So now that should also be able to start closed as well. You know, we had that problem before when it started closed and it wouldn't run. If we hit chase player now, the first thing that it'll do is open it, and then it'll run this loop, which will start moving towards the player. And then whenever we call the stop chase player, this will stop. Okay, so let's give that a go. Fingers crossed. Alright, so he's moving towards us, and if we leave his radius, which I think I'm going to struggle with because he's pretty quick. Okay, we've left his radius. Now what happens? He stopped. And if we go in again, and then can we leave? No, I can't leave because he's too quick. Alright, let's just make him a bit slower. So movement speed, we can set that to 200. Just so we can sort this guy out. Okay, so here we go. In the radius, out of the radius. And he's still chasing us. So in the radius. Okay, he stopped. Oh, it's because we're not in the nav mesh. Okay. So now if we... Can I get out of his radius again? Okay, we're out. And he's still chasing. Okay, so let's have a look at that. What's going on here? I think it's because we've set this to target actor. He continues to move to the actor, even though this gate has been closed. So what we could do is we could, instead of moving to the actor, what we could do is we could say get actor location like that, and then hook that up to the last location there. So every time this is called, he'll move to the last location of the actor, of the player character. And then when this stops updating, when this stops looping, he's just going to continue moving to the last spot that he saw us, but then he won't continue chasing us if we're not within his radius. Hopefully that makes sense, and that should work now. So if I go in here like this, alright, he's chasing us, and he's still chasing because he's moving to our last location, but now he's stopped. Just like that, because we left his radius. And if we enter again, he's chasing us, and if I jump on his head, we can get launched a little bit. Okay, so we've left his radius. He should stop moving any second. He's moving to our last location, and I think he just got there and now he's stopped. Okay. So that's a simple enemy. So how this would look if you wanted to use him is you could just have a couple of these platforms like this, down like that. Chuck a couple of these guys on a few of them, just like that. Let's just move our nav mesh down so it encapsulates those two volumes. And let's just scale these two platforms up a bit. Just like that. And then make the nav mesh a little bit bigger again. Okay, something like that. And let's say the goal was to get to our little endpoint up here again, so maybe we want to also have a little platform down like that to help us climb up. Does that look like we'd be able to get up there? Potentially. Alright, let's see. Alright, let's jump in the game. So, let's hide those overlaps because they're ugly. Go to chase radius and then tick hidden in game, just like that. Alright, play. Now they're chasing us. Dun dun. Now if we jump over here, this guy will start chasing us. Oh god. He didn't start chasing us until we were close, and I guess that's because his radius is tiny. Look at that. So if we make his radius a little bit bigger, just click on him and then go down here to chase trigger radius, and make that something like that so that it encapsulates the whole volume. And then we can do the same with this guy over here as well. That was scary. Okay, so we're in. This guy's chasing us. Oh god, he's already started. Oh man. So he's moving towards us. Do you reckon I could use him to launch me over the edge? No. Alright, and our trigger volume just caused us to die before we even really fell off the map. So if we go up here, and we grab our full volume that we created in one of the last videos, we can just drag that down like that. And we can extend that out a bit further as well, because it looks like it was just on the edge. Alright, let's try this one more time. The tutorial's done, by the way, guys. This is the end. This is everything that we're going to do today. I want to test it and play around with it a bit. So I'm going to see if I can get him to bounce me over. Let's go. Alright, no more bullshit. Let's go. Let's actually do this. And we get serious mode. And that's way too hard to jump on. Bummer. Oh well. He could have launched me up there. Alright, I'm not going to try and play around until I get that right. That's fine. So that's everything. Let's just highlight these and we'll call these overlap events. Or not overlap events, let's call this trigger events. Chase trigger events. It's good to comment everything so when you come back in 6 months time and you look at this, it actually makes sense. And then down here, this is called chase logic. Just like that. Alright, let's leave that there, guys. So, just to wrap up, if you want to know how to make the little fall volume off the edge like this, so when you fall off the edge of the game, there's a fade out screen and then the level restarts like this. If you want to learn how to make that, check out the earlier videos in this series. There's one for the checkpoint things as well, and there's a couple of other ones. I can't remember what they were exactly, but I'll put some links in the description. In the next one, I might make another different kind of enemy, maybe like a rotating beam kind of thing that you have to jump over instead of something that chases you like this. Let me know if you have any questions about this, if anything doesn't make sense. And that's it. I'll see you in the next one.